Go into your kitchen and open the cabinet under your sink. Surface disinfectants, kitchen cleaners, toilet bowl liquids. You are storing a miniature chemical plant. Every month, you breathe them in, spray them on your counters, and then obediently go back to the store to buy more. But what if I told you the ultimate replacement isn't another liquid? It's a metal that not only replaces those toxic sprays, but can act as a 24/7 self-sanitizing shield on every surface you touch, and even completely disrupt the breeding cycle of mosquitoes in your yard. Most people are living without knowing the true properties of copper. If they realized the hidden health benefits of this metal, the chemical cleaning industry would have collapsed a long time ago. There is an ancient metal that automatically kills 99.9% of bacteria and viruses 24/7, never runs out, and doesn't emit a single drop of toxic gas. But they would rather have you spray toxic chemicals every day than let you know about a material that costs a few bucks and lasts a lifetime. This is what they hide. And welcome to the cover-up happening right under your own roof. We've always been taught that a germ-free home needs that eye-watering smell of bleach. History disagrees. Let's go back to Paris in 1852. Cholera was ravaging the city. People were dying in the streets, and neighborhoods were locked down in terror. But when a young doctor named Victor Burke walked into a copper smelter on the outskirts of town, he witnessed the impossible. Temperatures inside reached thousands of degrees. Copper dust floated in the air, staining the workers' skin green and settling in their lungs. Yet, in a city where death was knocking on every door, inside this copper workshop of 200 men, not a single person caught cholera. Death seemingly stopped at the factory door. Burke was stunned and started the most obsessive investigation of his career. He tracked down over 400 businesses across Paris: boilermakers, jewelers, sculptors. He even checked military records and found that brass instrument musicians were also surviving against all odds. They all shared the same story. Their neighbors were dropping dead, but they were fine. By the 1865 epidemic, the numbers became undeniable. While 6,176 Parisians died, out of 30,000 copper workers, only 45 died. That is a death rate 7 times lower. Burke presented this shocking data to the French Academy of Sciences. The world acknowledged it, and then quietly buried it. Because nobody profits from a metal you buy once and keep forever. But we don't even need to look at Western history or vague stories about ancient Egypt. India has kept this legacy alive without interruption for 5,000 years. From ancient monks to modern families, copper vessels have always been the center of their water rituals. Their history is still alive, protecting health in everyday homes. So why did something so good disappear from modern society? Think back. The plumbing in older houses decades ago was made of copper. It sat there, tirelessly keeping the water sterile. Then one day, industrialists started pushing fear. Oh, heavy metals are bad for your health. And the result? They convinced us to rip out those eternal copper pipes, partly to save construction costs, but ultimately replacing them with cheap plastic. Stuff that constantly leaches toxic microplastics into your drinking water every single day. Do your own research. This switch was entirely for profit, not for your health. But here is the peak of the deception. While they tell you copper is toxic and pump tons of chlorine-based chemicals into your tap water, NASA is doing the exact opposite. NASA uses copper and silver filtration systems to provide pure drinking water for astronauts in space, completely eliminating the need for toxic chlorine. The greatest minds on the planet use copper to survive in space. But chemical corporations want you to scrub your house with toxins grown in a lab. It is time we wake up. Older generations understood this perfectly. People in their 50s and 60s probably remember being kids and braiding old copper wires into bracelets. The older folks in the neighborhood would happily buy them because they knew copper contact brought huge benefits, especially for joint pain. They wore those bracelets 24/7. And guess what? Nobody died of copper poisoning. Anyone trying to scare you about touching copper probably knows exactly how good it is for you. In 1893, scientist Carl Nageli called copper's antibacterial phenomenon the oligodynamic effect, the power of tiny amounts. Why does copper kill bacteria? Imagine a bacteria's outer membrane as a suit of armor. When bacteria touch a copper surface, the metal immediately shoots out positively charged ions. These ions act like millions of ruthless needles, punching right through that armor. Once inside, the copper ions shred the DNA and completely destroy the protein structure. The bacteria cell doesn't just die, it is gutted, collapsing and melting completely from the inside out. The University of Southampton proved this. On shiny stainless steel, E. coli lives happily for 34 days. On copper, it is completely wiped out in 4 hours. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, actually had to register copper as the only solid surface material capable of killing health-threatening bacteria. And right at this point of undeniable science, the industry's cruel theater reveals itself. Have you ever wondered, if copper is so perfect, how massive the cover-up really is? According to the latest financial reports, the global household cleaning industry is worth over $260 billion. And with the current rate of consumer brainwashing, it is projected to bloat to nearly $400 billion in less than a decade. Those hundreds of billions of dollars don't come from protecting you. They come from evaporation. They would rather spend millions on TV ads to sell you plastic bottles of foaming colored water with chemical scents. Because when you spray it, it disappears, and next month you have to crawl back to the store to buy another bottle. Copper represents eternity, and eternity is the #1 enemy of revenue. You buy a roll of copper, and it works for life. This $260 billion industry would starve overnight if they couldn't force you into a monthly subscription for the fake cleanliness of your home. It is time to kick the chemical corporations out of your house. Here is how. 1. Prioritize high-touch surfaces. You don't need to plate your whole house in copper. Focus on surfaces you touch constantly. If you have the budget, you can hire someone to cast solid copper door handles. But if you want a super cheap solution, go online and buy a roll of copper foil tape for a few bucks. Wrap this tape around your door handles and light switches. Just a fair warning, foil tape is thin. You must smooth the edges down perfectly so nobody gets a metallic paper cut, and you will need to replace it every few months when it inevitably peels or gets too tarnished. You just turned your biggest bacteria transit hubs into dead zones. 2. The water of life. To protect your body from the inside, invest in a certified 100% food-grade pure copper pitcher. Pour plain room temperature water into it and let it sit for 6 to 8 hours before drinking. But heed this warning: never use cheap industrial copper wire, and never put lemon, juice, or anything acidic in a copper bottle. Acid dissolves copper rapidly and will turn your water toxic. Treat the metal with respect, use it properly, and it will serve you well. 3. Protect your pets. You might be tempted to just drop a cheap copper coin into their water, but stop right there. That is a massive choking hazard, and many modern coins are secretly filled with toxic zinc. Instead, get a large, heavy block or disc of 100% pure copper, something absolutely too big for them to ever fit in their mouth, and drop that into their dish. Or better yet, just upgrade to a solid, pure copper water bowl. You know that slippery slime at the bottom of the bowl? That is a bacterial biofilm. The pure copper continuously breaks down this structure, keeping the water clean without you having to scrub it with soap every day. 4. Destroy mosquitoes at the source. Walk around the outside of your house. Plant saucers, roof gutters, old buckets, or any stagnant puddles after it rains. Those are nurseries breeding thousands of mosquitoes every week. Instead of buying toxic bug spray, cut some bare copper wire and toss it straight into that standing water. Science proves that copper in stagnant water creates a 100% mortality rate for mosquito larvae. You just destroyed their entire breeding cycle, turning their nursery into a permanent graveyard without a single drop of chemicals. 5. The kitchen bacteria bomb. Do you know what the dirtiest thing in your house is? It's not the toilet bowl, it's your plastic dish sponge. It becomes a massive, sour-smelling bacteria colony after just a week, forcing you to throw it away and buy a new one constantly. The solution? Throw that trash away forever and switch to a pure copper scourer. It never rusts, and, thanks to the Oligodynamic Effect, bacteria absolutely cannot survive. Your sponge will never smell again, and you just cut off another recurring revenue stream for the big brands. 6. The truth about pools. If you have a pool, algae is a nightmare. Do you know what is actually inside those expensive algicides sold at the store? If you read the tiny print on the back, the active ingredient is copper sulfate. They are selling you copper at an insane markup. You can use metallic copper yourself to paralyze algae. Just do it like a pro. You must have a copper test kit. Drop a small amount of copper into the system. Don't let it touch the pool liner directly. Monitor the levels and increase it slowly until it hits around 0.2 to 0.4 parts per million. Never exceed the safety limits and always maintain proper chlorine levels. Here is a reality check so you don't get the wrong idea. Copper kills microorganisms. It does not clean physical dirt. If you spill food on the counter, you still need to wipe it up. But after you wipe, the copper surface will automatically incinerate the pathogens your eyes can't see. And there is a psychological hurdle you have to get over. You must accept that copper will tarnish or develop a green film, patina, over time. That is completely normal oxidation. It doesn't mean it has lost its value. That tarnish is proof that your shield is actively working. We have locked ourselves indoors, breathing toxic fumes from expensive spray bottles, and obediently handing our money over to an industry that lies to us. All while nature has already provided an eternal shield. If the truth in this video helped you look at your home differently, hit subscribe and share it. See you next time on What They Hide.